shot her, and she rolled down the stairs, and I shot her again. And then I went down and I shot my mom.
Oh my God. I went up.
Those girls, despite thinking at the moment this might be a prank, it's because it was terrifying.
Walk out the courtroom if I could give my family a hug, if you'd allow that.
No, I can't grant that request in here.
Okay, that's fine.
Stop sniveling, stop crying. The grief you have caused the Rileys and my own family, I will never forgive you.
Some teenagers spend their time planning for the future. Others spend the rest of their lives paying for one decision. A movie night ended with a 15-year-old girl losing her life. Another case ended with a mother and daughter never making it home. These weren't impulsive mistakes that could be erased. They were choices that changed countless lives forever. Let's begin.
I know that it wasn't my intentions, but the truth is, it doesn't change the result. It doesn't change the fact that there was a life taken.
A fun movie night had just come to an end. 3 teenage friends were laughing as they walked toward a nearby restaurant, unaware that someone was already watching them. Within moments, an attempted robbery would turn into a tragedy, leaving 15-year-old Kayla Rincon Miller dead and an entire community searching for justice. On the night of March 17, 2024, 15-year-old Kayla Rincon Miller and her friends left a movie theater in Cape Coral, Florida, and headed toward a nearby McDonald's. As they walked along the street, a van suddenly pulled up and shined its headlights at them. Several people got out and attempted to rob the girls. During the frightening encounter, a shot was fired. Kayla was struck and rushed to a local hospital, where she sadly passed away. Cape Coral police immediately launched a homicide investigation after Kayla's death. Detectives secured the scene, interviewed the surviving victims and nearby witnesses, reviewed surveillance footage, and gathered forensic evidence. As the investigation progressed, authorities traced the attempted robbery back to Thomas Stein and Christopher Horn Jr. Prosecutors alleged the pair had planned to rob strangers that night before targeting Kayla and her friends, leading investigators to charge both men for their roles in the deadly crime. The trial was filled with conflicting testimony and unexpected twists. Christopher Horn Jr. took the witness stand and admitted that he and Thomas Stein had attempted to rob people that night. Horn told jurors he saw Stein fire the shot that killed Kayla. He also admitted that he had lied to investigators during the early stages of the investigation. He also said that he later threw his phone and the firearm into a river before deciding to cooperate under a plea agreement. Stein then testified in his own defense, denying that he pulled the trigger. He claimed more people were involved than prosecutors had identified and said he tried to break up the confrontation before the gun went off. During the trial, Kayla's 2 friends also described the terrifying attempted robbery and the moments when Kayla collapsed after being shot. After the jury found Stein guilty, his defense requested a new trial, arguing that one witness's earlier deposition did not fully match her courtroom testimony. The judge reviewed the motion, but ultimately denied the request, allowing the guilty verdict to stand. According to prosecutors, the group set out that night intending to rob strangers. After changing their original plan, they targeted Kayla and her friends as they walked down the street. What began as a search for easy money ended in the senseless death of an innocent teenager. After reviewing the evidence and hearing testimony from both sides, the jury found Thomas Stein guilty of first-degree murder and attempted armed robbery. He was sentenced to life in prison for Kayla's murder, along with up to 45 additional years for multiple armed robbery convictions. As the verdict was read, Thomas said,
I want to apologize for my actions that night and to say sorry for what you guys have been through and what you can continue to go through because of that.
His co-defendant, Christopher Horn Jr., accepted a plea agreement, admitted his role in the attempted robbery, and testified against Stein during the trial. In return, he received a 25-year prison sentence, significantly less than the life sentence handed to Stein. However, he didn't show any signs of remorse while the verdict was read. The verdicts brought the long court battle to an end, holding both men accountable for their roles in the attempted robbery that claimed Kayla Rincon Miller's life. Kayla's family continues to keep her memory alive through Kayla's house. Her sister said,
The empath in me keeps searching for a reason because I don't want to believe that people our age We're capable of doing something like this, but no answer will ever be enough.
While the sentence brought accountability, her loved ones say nothing can replace the bright smile and future that were taken far too soon. An attempted robbery stole a 15-year-old's future, but our next case wasn't about strangers. It was about a grandmother who welcomed her family into her home, only to lose her life behind its front door.
But they weren't killing her to rob her. They were killing her because they wanted to be adults.
A grandmother opened her home to raise her granddaughter with love and care, but behind closed doors, growing tension was building. Days later, the 61-year-old woman was found dead inside her own home, and the people she trusted most became the focus of a murder investigation. In February 2025, concerned neighbors asked authorities to check on 61-year-old Tammy King after no one had heard from her. Deputies arrived at her home in Bigleaf, Texas, where they found her fatally shot inside the house. Investigators soon learned that Tammy had been raising her 17-year-old granddaughter, Tara King. According to court records, family disagreements had been growing after Tammy refused to let Tara's boyfriend, Uriah Urick, spend the night. Investigators also learned the two had argued over Tara skipping school. Detectives quickly identified Tara King and her 18-year-old boyfriend, Uriah Urick, as persons of interest before naming them as suspects. Investigators recovered 2 firearms from the home and discovered the couple had fled after the shooting. Court records revealed they asked several people for rides out of town and eventually accepted a ride from a man who was later charged with helping them avoid arrest. A statewide search followed as authorities tracked the couple across Texas. 5 days after Tammy's death, Tara King and Uriah Urick were captured in Laredo, Texas, ending the manhunt. Both were arrested and charged with capital murder. According to investigators, the motive appeared to stem from ongoing family conflict. Tammy reportedly refused to let Uriah spend the night at her home, and tensions had also grown over Tara skipping school. What began as disagreements inside the home ultimately ended in a deadly confrontation. The prosecutor said,
And no matter what y'all do, their lives are over. And it's by their own hands.
After hearing the evidence presented during the trial, a Galveston County jury found Uriah Urick guilty of capital murder for the death of 61-year-old Tammy King. Prosecutors argued that the evidence showed Urick played a direct role in the killing before fleeing the area with Tara King. Following the guilty verdict, the judge sentenced Urick to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, Urick remained silent through the delivery of sentencing. His co-defendant, Tammy's granddaughter Tara King, was also charged with capital murder. As for now, her case remains pending, and she's not yet gone to trial. Tammy King devoted her life to raising her granddaughter, hoping to give her a better future. Instead, her life ended inside the home where she had cared for her family. The case remains a painful reminder that unresolved conflict can have devastating consequences. What should have been her safest place became the setting of her senseless killing. But our next case proves danger doesn't always come from family. Sometimes, it comes from the friend sitting right beside you.
It was all that. My idiot self had that stupid finger on the trigger.
Just one day before Christmas Eve, a gathering between friends turned into an unimaginable tragedy. 2 young men were shot inside a Texas home, leaving one dead, another seriously injured, and a teenager facing a lifetime behind bars. On the evening of December 23, 2023, 3 friends gathered inside a home in Friendswood, Texas, expecting to spend some time together just days before Christmas. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but without warning, the peaceful evening turned into a nightmare. Gunshots suddenly rang out inside the house. 18-year-old Ethan Riley was struck in the head and collapsed. Brian Blyack was also shot in the head but somehow survived. As panic spread through the home, another person locked themselves inside a bathroom and whispered that they had heard 2 gunshots and believed others were still inside. What had begun as an ordinary gathering between friends had ended in a devastating act of rampage, leaving investigators searching for one crucial answer. Why did it happen? When officers arrived, they found Ethan dead inside the home, while Brian was critically injured and rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. A witness later told investigators they heard Hilton walk through the house, repeatedly saying, "What have I done? What have I done?" and start crying. Hilton, who was 17 at the time, was arrested and charged as an adult with murder and aggravated assault. As the case moved toward trial, Hilton's defense argued that an acne medication had caused a psychotic episode that contributed to the shooting. They claimed he had taken a higher dose than prescribed on the day of the incident. However, the judge rejected the request to allow expert testimony supporting that defense, clearing the way for the trial to proceed. Investigators never identified a clear motive for the shooting. Instead, the defense focused on Hilton's mental state, arguing that medication played a role in his actions. Prosecutors, however, moved forward with the criminal case after the judge ruled the medication defense could not be presented at trial. Less than a week before his trial was scheduled to begin, Connor Hilton pleaded guilty to murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He accepted a 50-year prison sentence for the murder of Ethan Riley and 20 years for the assault on Brian Blyack. The sentences will run concurrently, meaning he will serve them at the same time. He bowed his head and broke down in tears as the verdict was announced. What should have been a joyful holiday weekend became a lasting tragedy for two families and a close group of friends. One young man never made it home. Another survived with life-changing injuries, and a teenager's future ended behind prison walls, reminding everyone how one moment can change countless lives forever. A gathering between friends ended with one young man dead and another fighting to survive. But our next case didn't begin with a gun. It began with $160, a split-second decision, and a young caregiver who never finished her shift.
Yeah, Renee Greco was only 24 years old when she was killed in June 2009 while supervising troubled teenagers.
A simple card game inside a group home turned into a nightmare. Within moments, a young staff member was left with life-threatening injuries, and investigators uncovered a crime that started over just $160. On an evening in Lockport, New York, 24-year-old Renee Greco was supervising residents at a group home and playing cards with them when violence suddenly erupted. According to investigators, 19-year-old Anthony Allen had allegedly stolen $160 from an office inside the home. When Greco discovered what had happened, Allen attacked her with a table leg in an attempt to cover up the theft. The assault left the young staff member with fatal injuries. Emergency responders rushed to the group home, but Renee Greco could not be saved. Detectives interviewed witnesses who were inside the home and collected evidence from the scene. Their investigation concluded that the attack occurred during an attempt to hide the theft. Authorities arrested Anthony Allen and 18-year-old Robert Thousand, who was also accused of taking part in the events. As the case moved through the courts, witness testimony described the moments leading up to the attack. Prosecutors argued that Allen used the table leg to silence Greco after the theft was discovered. Meanwhile, Robert Thousand accepted responsibility for a lesser charge by pleading guilty to manslaughter, although he later sought to withdraw his plea. According to investigators, the attack was carried out to cover up the theft of $160 from the group home's office. During the trial, witness testimony and evidence presented in court convinced the jury that Allen was responsible for the attack. After deliberating, a Niagara County jury found him guilty of second-degree murder, robbery, and burglary. Judge Sarah Speranza sentenced him to 25 years to life in prison and said,
"I have very rarely in my life looked into the eyes of a monster."
However, he showed no emotion about his actions. His co-defendant, Robert Thousand, pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter for his role in the case. He was sentenced separately and later appealed his conviction, but Anthony Allen remained the only defendant convicted of second-degree murder for Renee Greco's death. Renee Greco dedicated her time to helping troubled young people build better futures. Instead, her life was taken while caring for those in her charge. Her death left her family, friends, and co-workers mourning the loss of a young woman who dedicated her life to helping others. Her parents, Kevin and Jane Patterson, said,
"Now Renee can rest in peace.
This nightmare is over. Now we can just enjoy Renee's memories."
A theft inside a group home cost a young caregiver her life. But our next case is even more unsettling. There was no robbery, just a family home, a teenager, and a decision that would leave a mother and daughter gone forever.
I just killed my mom and my sister.
You just killed your mother and your sister? How did you do that?
I shot him with a .22 revolver.
A family home is supposed to be the safest place, but behind one front door in North Texas, a teenager had already made a decision that would change his family's life forever. Before the night was over, a mother and her teenage daughter were gone. On the night of October 4th, 2012, 17-year-old Jake Evans called an emergency number from his home in Aledo, Texas, and told the dispatcher, "I just killed my mom and my sister." Jamie Evans and his 15-year-old sister Mallory Evans. As officers rushed to the house, Evans remained on the phone for more than 20 minutes, describing what had happened. When police arrived, they found both victims deceased inside the home. During the call, Evans told the dispatcher he had not been angry with his family. Instead, he said he'd been thinking about killing someone for some time, leaving investigators searching for answers behind the devastating crime. Authorities arrested Evans at the scene and charged him with capital murder. As the case moved through the court system, questions arose about his mental health. 2 psychologists found him incompetent to stand trial, and he was transferred to a state mental health hospital for treatment. In April 2015, doctors determined he was competent to stand trial, allowing the case to move forward. As prosecutors prepared for trial, Evans accepted responsibility for the killings. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder, avoiding a capital murder trial after prosecutors agreed to dismiss the capital murder charge as part of a plea agreement. His attorney reads a letter from his family, in which they're saying,
"Our family would support a lesser sentence than 45 years if it was possible to do so in this case."
Evans said that he felt his mother and sister had suffocated him. He also admitted he had been thinking about killing someone for a long time, saying the victims were not specifically targeted because of anger, but were caught up in thoughts he had been struggling with. At 19 years old, Jake Evans was sentenced to 45 years in prison for each murder count, with both sentences running concurrently. Under the plea agreement, the capital murder charge was dismissed because he was 17 at the time of the crime. He was not eligible for the death penalty or life without parole under constitutional protections for juvenile offenders. He will become eligible for parole after serving approximately half of his sentence, including time already served. However, he remained motionless while the verdict was read.
Evans and the attorneys agreed he will serve 2 45-year prison sentences running concurrently.
Despite losing both Jamie and Mallory, members of the Evans family publicly supported the plea agreement, saying they wanted to begin healing. Prosecutors described the family's forgiveness as extraordinary, while acknowledging that no sentence could undo the loss of a mother and daughter. These teenagers came from different backgrounds, but every case ended the same way, with lives lost, families forever changed, and years behind prison walls. In the end, every judge handed down a sentence, but for those left to mourn, justice could never bring back the people they loved. And if you want even more content, join our membership for exclusive videos and early access to every upload. Your support helps us keep telling these stories. Just click the join button below. Thanks for watching.